Well, it's interesting to find out that Franz is a piece of dirt. Just got done with the episode 9 of Fena Pirate Princess, and this is my thoughts on the episode. So yeah, pretty much most of this episode focused on the backstory of, I guess, how Fena came to be. Really just more how Helena and Abel met each other and what they basically went through. But like I said, this aspect that apparently Franz is, well, for one, Franz is not Fena's father, but two, that Franz is a jerk. An absolute scumbag. I guess it's all for the prophecy. I don't know. We'll just go with the prophecy aspect. But yeah, quite an interesting episode. Jumping right into the history of Abel and Helena. Apparently they met each other inside of this garden. I really like this scene, how it opened up, because how we've always kind of got this perspective from Abel is this painting of Helena. And what was really cool is at some point he mentioned the idea that the image of her is fading and that he's been trying to paint it, but it's not right. And how they portray, at least the opening of the backstory, is this aspect of everything is kind of painted. Everything's a painted background of the garden and everything to give this sense of his memory that he's painting, which I thought was really, really cool. But yeah, eventually when he's in this garden trying to draw some pictures, eventually he ends up stumbling upon Helena, who's dancing around. She's like, well, you lost too? I'm lost and I decided to dance, because why not? So apparently every single day from that point on, they kept meeting each other at this garden, and eventually it seemed like they fell in love, but at some point, one time when he comes to see her, she's being basically escorted away by Franz. We've seen Franz a couple times in the background watching as they were together, but eventually Franz takes her away. And through some conversation, some whispers of some maids, he ends up finding out that what had happened is apparently she had, this Franz guy, or this Dutchman that she apparently eloped with, took her away after she became with the child of the king. So they're saying, if she ever gets found, that she's probably going to get burnt at the stake. Well, eventually, as he's just kind of upset that she's now gone, eventually he gets word that she's there. And so she rushes to her side. She's in a prison, obviously. And that's where she pretty much divulges that the butler Franz told her that she needed to carry the child of the king. It had to be the king for this prophecy. For her to be able to birth La Pucelle, she had to carry the child of the king. At the same time, Abel's basically saying, why'd you leave me? I didn't care that you were carrying my father's child. I just didn't want to be without you. And that's when she says that, yeah, her role is over. Like, she's done everything she needed to do, which was obviously to get the child of the king, to birth it. Now she can basically go off to Eden. And that, I guess, the symbolism is that she's going to be burnt at the stake, and maybe her soul goes to Eden. But in him desiring to be with her, he's like trying to figure out, well, how can I be with you? How do I get to Eden as well? And that's when she said, you can only go there if if your path is driven you to be there. You have to have a calling. But she also says that if you ever meet the child, you might possibly have a calling to go there. And that's why he's so excited to see Fena, obviously, because Fena is the child that he's crossing paths with. And so if he can keep crossing paths with her, maybe his calling will be to go to Eden, where he can be with Helena again. So that's why he keeps talking about the fact that he's going to be with her again. He's going to be with her again because his path crossed. And so he's so determined that he's now has a calling to go to Eden to be with Helena. So everything's now making sense, which most of it's pretty much stuff that I would assume is what was driving him, but at least now it's kind of in concrete exactly what is driving Abel so much. But yeah, just before they kind of part ways, she said that, you're the only one that I ever loved, and then they take her off to be burned at the stake. Obviously, for these times, an unfortunate occurrence that is celebrated by many people, big audience, all cheering. But, of course, again, they technically seen her as a witch, and the witch burnings were often seen as a celebration, getting rid of this nasty thing that plagues them, that brings them plagues. But yeah, and after her being burned, he's pretty much at this point like, I have nothing here no more. This place means nothing to me. Again, that's that aspect I think we've seen several times where it feels like he's technically like this high-ranking officer, but he gives squat about it. Like he's carrying this huge weapon, and he doesn't care what he'll use it on because he doesn't care his position. He just, whatever he wants, he's going after. But yeah, the last part of this episode is obviously where we have Yukimaru. He's trying to use a sword again. Still has a little bit of a pain there, but then Fena comes up. They have a little discussion together. And as they're deciding to go back to the ship to go, carry on, that's when she starts singing. And he picks up on the tune and starts singing the lyrics. She's like, how do you know the lyrics? I've always been wanting to know the lyrics. She only knows the tune. And he's like, well, you always sung it when you were on Hope. You kept singing this song. And she says that it was supposed to be a secret song. How do you know it? And he's like, you kept singing on Hope. It's kind of not really a secret. Basically, because of his memory, he's able to remember all the lyrics. He basically spells it out. And they come to find out, based on the name of it, which she recalls from her mother whispering to her, vice versa, everything must be reversed. And thus they figure out that basically all the coordinates and all the information they've gotten so far has to be reversed. The numbers, coordinates, everything, in order to discover where Eden's at. And now they're rushing off the boat. Pretty much gets everybody's signature on their next path, even including Shaitan, who's like, I'm good. Let's go. He's just going with it now. They're all rushing off to Eden now. Yeah, and pretty much a lot of points in this episode as well, having Cody kind of in the background being Cody. Like, the time is now. It's time to do this. Like, he's obviously, again, like I mentioned before, it seems like he's a prophet somehow. And he's giving Abel a lot of signs, and it seems like he's continuing this as he sort of sees where they need to be going next. So yeah, solid episode. Really, a lot of it's kind of confirming what we were talking about last episode with Yukihisa, and possibly it being Abel, the one that he's talking about that is driven mad by the witch. Obviously, now that we see what they went through, doesn't really seem like a bewitching to me. It really does seem like they were in love for a long time, and it seems like, again, Franz utilized Helena to create La Pucelle. And again, I'm hoping I'm saying La Pucelle right, but I'm just going with it. But it's kind of interesting to finally see that, yeah, Franz is technically not her father, and also he's a dirtbag because he was basically using this girl to create this La Pucelle, and then that was it. That's all he needed her for, and now she's gone. Let's let her burn at the stake. She fulfilled her role. Pretty nasty, if you think about it. Very, very nasty character, if you think about it at the end. And kind of nasty if you think about the fact that Franz, I guess, came in there as a butler in order to get Helena in there, but at the same time, almost allowing Abel to get in a relationship with Helena at the same time, because obviously he was a prince. He was not able to become king, but he was a prince, and I don't know if they were insinuating the fact that they used Abel to get to the king, because technically they never showed any scenes where, you know, Helena and Abel were walking together and then suddenly they run into the king. It was really kind of a thing where they were in the area there, and Abel just kept meeting her while Franz was waiting for her to meet the king, and then, again, use her body to bear his child. Just really sad. Like, really depressing story for Helena. Just really, like I said, just used and losed, and all for the sake of creating La Pucelle. But at the same time, like I said, really kind of painting Abel as, dude has got nothing to lose. Like, he was thrown to the ringer, shown somebody that he loved, and they were together for a long time, and then to just have her be taken away and then burnt was pretty screwed up. I no longer have any kind of weirdness to him. Like, yeah, he's still technically weird, but like I mentioned last time, it's not necessarily an aspect of that he was bewitched. It's that he's in mourning. He's always been in mourning. This is somebody that he loved and cherished, and she was put through crap, and he had to watch her burn to death. So I no longer feel that Abel's a bad person or that he's weird, because I would probably be screwed up too. It's not really something you want to watch. But yeah, with that said, episode 10 looks like we're going into Eden. It's about time that we do, just because we only have technically 3 episodes left. So excited to see what Eden is, or if Eden even exists. I'm sure it does, because otherwise this would be a huge build-up. But I'm assuming at that point, everybody's going to come to a head. I'll be interested to see how Kay gets there, because we haven't shown Kay yet. And Kay is going to coordinates, which are opposite. Unless they figured it out and reversed it as well, which will be a dumb little twist. Like, suddenly out of nowhere, Kay's like, yeah, I knew that because I knew what the name of the song was because I heard it before. I'm assuming that maybe Shaitan will actually still tell them, because that's the only way they can see it happening. How Abel figures it out, I'm assuming is Cody. I'm assuming Cody will get a prophecy of where it's at, which then at that point just pretty much makes all this stuff about Fena and the song and the lyrics, everything really dumb. I'm already kind of drawing a conclusion about how I'm going to get annoyed by the fact that how is Abel and Kay going to get to Eden when they're the only ones that apparently have unveiled this aspect of of everything being in reverse. But we'll see. Like I said, I'm assuming that Shaitan tells Kay, and then maybe Kay tells Yukihisa, and then Yukihisa tells Abel. Shaitan Yukihisa and Abel are all technically connected. As to how they maybe use Cody, I'm not sure, but they'll all end up there. Somehow they'll all end up there, but and O'Malley will figure it out as well. I'm not sure how O'Malley will figure it out, but she'll figure it out. But maybe I mean they were technically crazy theory. They were technically hitting very heavy on Mary in O'Malley's group. Mary was the girl that they were asking her which direction Fena went, and she'd always say one direction, they would go the opposite direction. The vice versa. Weird, but hey, the vice versa effect. Maybe she is the reversing aspect. So how O'Malley will figure it out is that Mary is going to say, oh, well, they're going this direction. And they'll go, okay, well, opposite those coordinates. And that's how they'll figure it out. It'd be done, something done. They probably won't even explain it all. But yeah, that's my thoughts on episode 9 of Fena Pirate Princess. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon if you can. We definitely appreciate everybody that does. And y'all take care.